Welcome to Hope for Recovery, a 12-step workshop, sponsored by the Saturday Serenity Meeting of Eating Disorders Anonymous, which is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they might solve their common problems and help others to recover from their eating disorders. Information about EDA can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. Handouts for all sessions of this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. And now, here's today's workshop.
Welcome to week 3 of our 14-week Hope for Recovery workshop. My name is Regina. I live in San Diego, California, and I'm a grateful recovered member of Eating Disorders Anonymous, and I remain the chair of the workshop committee. Today we're covering step 3. Please join me while I take a breath and have a quiet contemplation for just a moment. So this week is not quite as packed as last week, but we're going to do a lot. We're going to be sharing from the step 2 homework, taking another look at everybody's favorite tool, the telephone, and then we're going to focus on step 3 together. Please turn your camera off. I like to demonstrate if you're moving about or doing anything which might be distracting to others. This workshop is being recorded to create an audio version, so if you choose to share, your voice may be heard on the recording. As a reminder, the handouts for this session are available at edahopeforrecovery.com. For those of you listening to the audio recording of this workshop, we want you to know we read the material on the slides so you're not missing anything. The workshop guidelines remain in effect and are found on the handouts. It's now my pleasure to introduce Ed R., who's going to be our leader today.
Hi, my name is Ed, and I live in St. Augustine, Florida, and I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. At this time, we're going to be sharing our writing from last week's homework, which was to write on some or all of the following 3 questions. 1, do you have a higher purpose or higher power that you can rely upon to help you recover and be happy, joyous, and free? If yes, describe your higher power, higher purpose. 2, if you don't have a higher purpose or higher power, what options do you see as possible for you? 3, what could you use as a higher purpose, higher power right now, knowing your concept can evolve over time? Raise your hand if you're willing to share your writing on one of these questions. Please limit your sharing to 2 minutes. Michelle's iPad.
Hi, everybody. I'm recovering from an eating disorder, and my name is Michelle. And I was excited to share because I love my higher power. My higher power is everything. So yes, I have a higher power. My higher power has a name, Father God. I see God as my creator and the creator of all things seen and unseen. Visually, God is a brilliant white light with warm hues of yellow in the center. The figure is undefined, has no specific shape. It is pure energy and love, and is both within and outside of me. I am able to connect with God through my thoughts and emotions, as well as outside of my body and through others who are walking a spiritual path. God loves me unconditionally and has given me self-will. When I align my will with his will, life is amazing, although not always good and easy. My purpose is to serve God. He does not serve me. He will provide all I need so that I will be able to do his will. I believe my job is, quote, to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and to my fellows, unquote. And I just want to end by saying that in another 12-step program, when I first came in 37 years ago, I had a white light spiritual experience. And so when I'm describing God, the way that I did, that's what I saw. So thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Michelle. Rachel A.
Hi, I'm Rachel, recovering from an eating disorder in Toronto, Canada. So grateful for the work that's been put into this workshop. Mine is, I'll just read what I wrote. I recently completed writing the steps at the last EDA workshop, and I've done written steps many times in other fellowships. So I was inspired to use this workshop to express my work, to express my step work artistically. In morning meditation, the day I was going to work on my second step, I received an image that described my higher power. And this is the image I created and the haiku I wrote. The swirling blues of a mysterious sky studded with geometric lines. And emerging from the swirl is the image of a bird with a golden seed in her beak. You have to look closely to see the emerging image, just like I often have to look closely at my life to see higher power at work. The haiku that came to me goes like this. Nightbird sings alone. Broken hearts grieve the darkness. A seed falls to earth.
Thank you, Rachel. Melissa B.
Good morning. My name is Melissa, and I'm really grateful to be in recovery and a part of this workshop. I'm reading something on behalf of my sponsee, who's a little shy, but I love what she wrote. I wanted to share it. Yes, I have a higher power to which I feel connected to in my life. My higher power does not have a definite name. My higher power is greater than me and is the energy that gives me hope, peace of mind, and strength. It is safe, reliable, comforting, and healing. For me, my higher power is unconditional love. If asked to paint a picture of my higher power, I see the image of sunflowers that always find the sunlight. I was raised Catholic, so this version of my higher power is new to me and is different to the God I was taught about growing up, who would judge me and punish me for doing anything wrong. My eating disorder is wrong. I believe this is why I have some barriers to work on, to have the faith that my higher power will relieve me of my eating disorder. However, I love the idea of my higher power evolving and being able to develop a deeper relationship with my higher power. Thanks, pass.
I want to thank everyone that has shared. Last week, we discussed 9 important tools to help you in your recovery. This week, we want to emphasize one of those tools that can be especially helpful but challenging. That tool is using the telephone when we need help or support. We will share a collection of points that we hope will make it a little easier to call or text someone. No need to take notes, as these are all printed in your handout. I've asked Kathy G. and Sandra B. to read the next 6 slides for us.
Making more use of the telephone. Here are some thoughts members have shared regarding the use of the telephone. When I call someone new, I introduce myself. Then I tell them I am making an outreach call to see how they are. I usually keep the call brief and have found my call helps both of us.
I usually text someone new before calling them to introduce myself and ask, when is a good time to talk? I text the reason I want to call, for example, to say hello, offer co-support, chat about something they said at a meeting, discuss a concern.
Calling more experienced EDA members is a great way to get questions answered. It was especially useful in the months before I found my sponsor.
With practice, calls to other members became easier.
It may take many calls to find others in EDA we truly resonate with, but it is worth the effort.
I usually make a call when I know I would benefit from support, especially when stressed or wanting to act out with eating disordered behaviors. I also call others to offer support when I am aware they are going through a rough spell.
When I receive a call, I remind myself I don't have to fix anyone. I avoid offering advice. I try to be a good listener and just share my experience if I have any that is relevant. People seem to appreciate my picking up the phone and being willing to listen.
When I am upset, making a call is one way to calm myself. and gain perspective. The person I call will often direct me to a passage in our book, remind me to connect with my higher power, or suggest that I need to take care of a basic need that I have neglected.
When I do inventory writing, especially writing about a hot emotion, I sometimes cannot see my part or what I need to do to find a resolution. Making a call to another EDA member sometimes provides a fresh perspective.
I have made several friends in EDA that I can call to talk things through with. This way, I am not dependent on my sponsor as the only person who can help me.
When I make an EDA call, I start by asking if it's a good, okay time to talk.
When my head tells me that I should not call because I will be bothering the person, I need to remind myself that if people share their phone number in a meeting, it is because they welcome calls. Also, like myself, no one need answer a call if they are busy, or they can turn their ringer off if they do not want to be disturbed.
I made a phone call to another EDA member, and during the conversation, I mentioned that I needed a sponsor. She knew someone who was available, and that person became my sponsor.
I prefer texting rather than calling my EDA friends. I do keep in mind that much can be lost when using nonverbal communication. And when I'm in doubt about someone's meaning, I ask.
I tell the people I sponsor that making calls and sending texts is not just a tool, but it is also a service to others. It's a we program, and we help each other when we connect.
So many people think they are being a bother when the truth is that their call or text can be a gift, often at the right moment.
After my first meeting as a newcomer, I received several texts and a call from EDA members welcoming me to the meeting. It was very encouraging. I now make an effort to call and welcome newcomers myself.
I started attending the same meeting regularly and got to know the members. I wrote down their phone numbers and found it was much easier to call people I knew. This gave me a way to start making phone calls.
My sponsor told me to make phone calls to develop relationships with other EDA members so that when I really need someone to talk to, the relationship will already be established.
Phone calls work two ways. I get to know others and they get to know me.
My EDA friends know where I am coming from in a way my other friends do not.
My sponsor told me to call her 24/7 if needed, but I am uncomfortable calling anyone after 9 p.m. Fortunately, I now have phone numbers of EDA members all over the world in different time zones.
I am very busy right now in my life, so I do not add my name and phone number to EDA phone lists. When asked for my number by an individual, I provide it with the qualification that I am not good at returning calls.
Not everyone returns my call when I leave a message. I used to take this personally, but we are all busy, and now I focus on gratitude for those who do.
Well, thank you, Kathy and Sandra. You may have heard that recovery is a process, not an event. A key to recovery in EDA is understanding this. I have asked Laura W. To read the next two slides.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm recovering from an eating disorder in Virginia. Recovery is a process, not an event. While the EDA approach demands rigorous honesty and integrity, it does not insist on abstinence first. We recognize that recovery from an eating disorder is usually a gradual process and that establishing a foundation for a different kind of life takes time and commitment. Through continuous daily practice, we slowly learn to rely on new ideas and perspectives that work as we let go of old ones that keep us stuck in a cycle of misery and hopelessness.
And that's from the EDA Big Book, page 110.
Let us be completely clear. We think anyone can recover from having an eating disorder, though not everyone does. We would like to assure all readers that it is completely normal for someone with an eating disorder to continue to engage in old patterns of thought and behavior until they have, through repeated and determined practice, learned to rely more heavily on a new foundation created through working the 12 steps. As the saying goes, recovery is a process, not an event. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. That was from EDA Big Book, page 111. Before moving on to study step 3, let's consider where we are in regards to the first 2 steps by reviewing what we call 3 pertinent ideas, which are discussed on page 114 and 115 of the EDA Big Book. I quote, "Our descriptions of the eating disordered mind, coupled with our personal adventures before and after finding recovery, make clear 3 pertinent ideas. 1, that we had serious problems, eating disorders, that we could not solve despite our best efforts. Have you reached this conclusion? 2, that no accessible human power had relieved our eating disorders. Have you reached this conclusion? And 3, that reliance on God, a higher power, or a higher purpose could and would restore us to sanity and set us free. Have you reached this conclusion? If you have answered yes to these questions, you've taken the first 2 steps in your EDA journey. Congratulations. And if you haven't, you're right where you need to be. Remember, recovery is a process. Today, we're discussing step 3. I will read the long version from Appendix A of the EDA Big Book. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood God. We decided to trust that as we let go of rigidity, we would not fall. As we took and continue to take careful risks, our trust grew in God, in ourselves, and in others. Please get your EDA Big Book out. Getting mine out. Turn to page 124. We have 6 volunteers that have offered to read selections from step 3. Volunteers, after you read, you may share for up to 2 minutes, or you can feel free to pass. Ellie, please read page 124, second paragraph, which begins, "Until we reached."
I'm in recovery from an eating disorder in Wyoming. Until we reached step 3, many of us were working toward recovery with the idea that we must have it, because living with our eating disorders was untenable. We were frightened of what our lives might look like without them, but taking step 2 signaled that we developed hope that change was actually possible for us. We were encouraged to see others having an easier time when they actively sought and maintained recovery as something valuable they wanted in its own right, not because they were running from their eating disorders or felt obligated to follow the rules. We wanted the kind of recovery that looked and felt like real freedom. This is where step 3 comes in. I really like this paragraph. I think for me, what recovery might look like was something that I kind of struggled with, and that held me back from coming to meetings and getting involved, because I am, like many of us, in another 12-step fellowship and kind of had that idea of abstinence and that I couldn't start working the steps or really get involved until I had that abstinence. And I'm so grateful for this idea that recovery here is about balance. It's about freedom. It's about letting go of rigidity, and it's about, having some compassion for myself. And that's what I wanted. That's the idea that I wanted for my recovery. To me, recovery is not about not eating certain foods ever again, or eating in a certain way, or eating at certain times. It's about having that freedom to live my life and not have those rules take over my life the way that they have for so many years. And coming into the rooms and seeing that people had that freedom gave me hope. And seeing people living that in their daily lives has really, I guess, opened my eyes, and I want what they have. And so, yeah, I love this paragraph and I love this approach. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Linda from Canada, please read page 124, the last paragraph, which begins, "For those of us."
Hi, my name is Linda and I'm recovering from an eating disorder. For those of us with a deep and abiding faith and trust in God, step 3 makes tremendous sense. Our main difficulty lies in following through our commitment. For the rest of us, step 3 may present a serious obstacle. Some of us get what the AA text describes as mental goose flesh with respect to the idea of worship. Let us be clear, there's no need to get hung up on the word. We ask you to consider the following rewording of step 3. Made a decision to commit our will and our lives to the service of our higher power, higher purpose as we understood it. We believe this to be the logical equivalent for those who struggle with the idea of God and somewhat easier to understand and apply. I had some difficulty in reading that when I read through, when it said following through on our commitment. That's true. I always believed in God. I studied a master's degree in theology, and yet I realized I've been unable to trust or rely on a higher power or authority. When it would go on to say, made a decision to commit our will and our lives to the service, I had some difficulty with that too, because from the time from birth to 18 years, I was in 8 foster homes and 1 orphanage. Any kind of authority had let me down. I grew up to believe I was unwanted, I was expendable. I thought my only purpose was to work to earn my place on the planet or to please God. And I tried to work the 12-step recovery program this same way, and I usually ended up rebelling against it. However, in EDA, with the freedom and the compassion I've experienced, it's really helped me to realize that my higher power can be love, not a harsh taskmaster. I found no rules to rebel against, and I'm growing to believe that my Creator wants me to know that I'm loved and to share it and to stop trying to earn it. So in this, I can be committed to my recovery in that vein. And I really want to serve by helping others in their recovery journey too. It's really meant a lot to me.
Thank you, Linda. Sandy S., please read page 127, the first full paragraph, which begins, "Remember that we."
Remember that we are dealing with eating disorders, which are complex, life-threatening illnesses. By the time we arrive at step 3, we need to find a new frame of reference that provides the objectivity and power to address our condition with all the urgency we can muster. As discussed in chapters 3 and 4, full recovery from an eating disorder requires complete emotional displacement and rearrangement, a transformation as profound as any known to human experience. This isn't easy for anyone. We have to place service to God, our higher power, or higher purpose ahead of our worldly wants and desires. Can you do it? Of course you can. When I first came to EDA, it sounded like a lot of hooey to me. I was always told I had a chronic disease. It was never going to go away. I had all these food allergies. And when I finally found a higher power that I could trust, and of course, everybody's process is different, I finally started stepping out on faith. You know, try a fun food that I've been denying myself for years. Figuring out that I could eat it in moderation. But it took some time to really discard all the thinking, the rules, the exhortations from previous sponsors and other programs telling me I was no good if I wasn't willing to give up probably one of the best pleasures in life, enjoying food and not feeling guilty or awful every time I ate it. But there was no way I could have approached that unless I was able to step out on faith with a higher power I could trust. And with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Sandy. Robin A., please read page 127, second paragraph, which begins within 12-step programs.
Hi, I'm Robin. I'm recovering from an eating disorder. Within 12-step programs everywhere, millions of people have been able to achieve exactly the type of transformation we have been talking about. These people are living happily and completely free from their illnesses. The AA text tells us people of faith have a logical idea of what life is all about, and that we must have observed that spiritually minded persons of all races, colors, and creeds were demonstrating a degree of stability, happiness, and usefulness which we would have sought for ourselves. This is absolutely true. We are happy to add that many atheists and agnostics are quietly living lives of sane and useful purpose. They too have a logical idea of what life is all about and are demonstrating a degree of stability, usefulness, and happiness we ought now seek for ourselves. In my experience, I've been on the whole spectrum of being born again Christian and being atheist, or so I thought, until I realized that, I did believe in something. I just didn't understand what I believed in because I was defining it by how I was taught to define it through Christianity. And when I accepted that it wasn't necessarily like the full spectrum of Christianity that I believed in and that I was a spiritual person, which I was shocked to find out because to me it was all the same. It made it so much easier to realize and to feel that my higher power is working with me all the time. And with all the doubt that I used to have, or the old definitions that I used to have, I actually didn't very often feel my higher power working with me. And so I'm grateful for this program to remind me that I need to keep working with my higher power. I've had trouble with step 3 only in the sense of not being able to rely on my higher power for my eating disorder. And so that's my biggest goal for this workshop right now. And I pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Gail, please read page 128, the first paragraph, which begins, "The AA text declares."
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Gail, in recovery from an eating disorder. The AA text declares, when we saw others solve their problems by a simple reliance upon the spirit of the universe, we had to stop doubting the power of God. Our ideas did not work, but the God idea did. This statement is certainly true for those who are able to apply the concept of a higher power. And the key element we find is actually the concept of reliance. Those of us with religious convictions, as well as those without them, find that our ideas failed not because they were inherently soft and mushy, but because we had not relied upon them. Religious, spiritual, or neither, we were busy using our eating disorders as a crutch to get through our day-to-day existence, with no clue that a sense of purpose or duty could carry us through life's challenges instead. Perhaps because we had not taken full responsibility for meeting our own basic needs. We had somewhat childishly allowed ourselves and our emotional condition to take center stage in our lives. When we did so, no matter how strong our religious convictions, philosophical ideas, or moral principles, we simply could not seem to live by them. In the eye of the storm of our emotions, dependent only upon ourselves, we were hopelessly stuck trying to fix something broken within us with tools that were also broken. It didn't work. We must have something more durable, more powerful, more permanent, and ultimately more important than we are to ourselves to serve as our foundation. Wow, I can't believe that's what I got to read. This is my history in a paragraph, basically. I completely was overcome by my emotions that I couldn't see anything else but the eating disorder for so many years. And I had a really hard time relying on anybody, let alone a God, because I couldn't explain what a God was. And I had trouble with trust, a big trouble with trust, because I couldn't trust myself and I had a hard time trusting others. So how could I trust that what people say is God is really that? How do they know? And I also felt very empty. I knew there was something missing, and that's what the eating disorder provided me for in the beginning. It became my purpose, really. It got to the point where it was like a job for me. But now that I'm defining my higher power and my purpose in, fulfilling the will of my higher power, it's making it a lot. I'm feeling that freedom and clarity that I've never had before. But yeah, I used to allow my emotional condition to take center stage in my life. And I love how it says a sense of purpose or duty could carry us through life's challenges instead. I've been in recovery for many decades, and I just now have come to find the 12-step programs, and I'm finding that they're fulfilling my what's been missing all these years. Thanks. With that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Gail. Audrey, would you please read page 128, the last paragraph, which begins in step 2?
Hey y'all, my name is Audrey in Florida in recovery with EDA. In step 2, we discussed the idea that God, a higher power, or a higher purpose could restore us to sanity. Do you trust God, or were you able to define a higher power or higher purpose greater than yourself, whom or which you are open to serving? Some of us are such skeptics that this question gave us significant pause. But once we began to put these ideas into practice, we soon acknowledged that humble and anonymous work is exactly what we and the world most need. No matter how we conceive of God or purpose, the question is whether we are now willing to consider putting everything we have, our time, energy, thoughts, and actions into being of greatest possible service. My thought is that yes, the 12 steps have provided me sanity, and the sanity is continually restored because I personally, do go insane. And when I submit my thoughts and my energy and my activities to my higher power, I'm more equipped to be a better service. That's my share. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. And thanks to everyone who read and shared. Thus far, we've read the long version of step 3 and studied it in our book. Now we want to look at the 3rd step prayer and the 3rd step commitment. Many EDA members who are not comfortable with prayer find the 3rd step commitment a useful alternative. The 3rd step prayer and commitment are now on the screen. If you're not able to view the screen, they are found in the EDA Big Book on page 131. We will pause here for a quiet minute. Please contemplate one or both of these. Afterwards, I will ask those of you who wish to read one or both of them aloud with me. Let's read quietly. I invite you now, if you feel ready, to take this step with me. I'll start with the original prayer, and then I will say the alternative commitment. Everyone will remain muted, but feel free to repeat one or both versions aloud with me. The original third step prayer. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. The alternative third step commitment. I, Ed, am now willing to commit myself to serving the greater good and be of cheerful service to those around me. I am willing to make my service to a higher purpose more important than any desire for recognition or reward. When filled with fear and self-doubt, as I am sure to be at times, I resolve to remember my willingness and to do the next right thing that prepares me to be of better service. I gratefully embrace this opportunity to turn my will and my life over to serve a useful purpose. The homework this week is designed for you to deepen your third step experience. 1, write your own third step prayer or commitment. Bring it to the group next week. You will not be required to share it, but we request you have it with you. Read chapter 2. There is a solution in the EDA Big Book, page 69 to 83. Optionally, also read the letters of support in the EDA Big Book, which are found at the very beginning. Number 3, make use of the telephone by calling at least one person from this workshop or the EDA fellowship between now and the next session to share with each other. Hopefully, you are feeling inspired to put the telephone tool to work. You may want to share your third step prayer or third step commitment with another EDA member for a more personal experience. Today, we will wrap up by reading the first paragraph on page 130 in the EDA Big Book. Perhaps you doubt if you can find the strength and power to carry out the decision you are being asked to make in step 3. Your experience may have demonstrated that you cannot completely trust yourself to honor commitments of the sort required of you here. We truly understand and agree that this is a serious concern. We recognize your hesitation and respect your willingness to be honest with yourself about it. But please be assured that the point of steps 4 through 9 is to sweep away any barriers to your sanity and integrity so that you will be able to honor your commitments. Once you are able to maintain balance and perspective through some emotionally challenging situations, you will begin to see that reliance on your idea of a higher power or higher purpose does for you what you could not do for yourself. You can trust this process. It works for us, and it can work for you too. All right, I will now turn the workshop over to Regina, our workshop chair.
Thank you, Ed. Next week, we're going to go on to step 10. Yes, you heard it correctly. It will be our 4th week, but we're going to begin step 10 and cover it in the course of the next 2 weeks. This is not an original idea. It is proposed as useful in the EDA Big Book. We've offered the workshop this way previously, introducing step 10 right after step 3 with great results. Most EDA members I know and people who have done this workshop previously really like this approach. Before I start calling on people, I want to say a few words to those of you who have not found a sponsor, because I see this in the chat, a lot of requests for sponsors. Basically, you can have a lot of healing and growth in EDA between now and the time you find a sponsor to work the steps with. Try and relax and enjoy the experience of this workshop. In addition, go to EDA meetings, study the literature, and make phone calls. Call more experienced members and ask questions. Ask for those who are, concerned about not having yet find a higher purpose or a higher power, or are still people who are still having a lot of eating disorder behavior. Please know you're in the right place. Relax, you're not alone. We hear from lots of members in the same place as you are. It's okay. This is a long process. You are so welcome here. You need not keep up with the pace of this workshop to benefit. Keep coming and doing the work at a pace that feels right for you, and you will make progress. Finally, I was a person who really loved and still loves the AA Big Book and the AA program. And the idea of writing my own third step prayer was way out of my comfort zone. But my sponsor suggested it and I did it, and it was ultimately a good experience. So I understand if anyone is wondering about that part of the homework. All right, now we're going to have questions, milestones, sharing. Please limit your share to 2 minutes. And Erin.
Hi, everybody. Erin, in recovery from an eating disorder. And I just want to say thank you, everybody, again, for this amazing workshop and for all the work that went into it. Excellent lead, Ed. I guess I just want to check in. You know, there's some stuff that has been said to me or that's been shared by others today that's been very, very profound and very powerful and really struck a chord. And what's crazy to me is that there's one individual shared about, you know, their goal for this workshop. And as soon as they said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly where I'm at. And then I've already forgotten it. But I think what I am wanting to acknowledge and just share to the group itself is that I definitely, you know, there's no question whatsoever that I have an eating disorder, and that I believe in God, who's my higher power, can restore me to sanity and has restored me to sanity in a lot of ways. What I struggle with is that my will is a gift. It's gotten me in a lot of beautiful places and a lot of beautiful blessings in my life, but it's also so strong that it's like, I've struggled with it throughout the day. And that's where I feel the fear, you know, of like really turning over my life to this higher power at times. You know, God has never, ever, ever let me down. And yet I constantly had that moment of like, what if this one time God doesn't show up for me or something like that? And that's what I struggle with. So anyhow, this was just it was a beautiful meeting, and I loved this one line too on 129. It talks about humble and anonymous work is exactly what we and the world most need, and that's just, gosh, that's such a powerful thought for today. So that's really what I want to share, and just want to check in with the group, claim my spot, that's for sure, and just say thank you everyone so much for being here.
Thanks, Erin. Michelle.
I'm Michelle, and I have an eating disorder, and I was very, very moved to share this. For people who are just coming in to EDA, because this is how I felt, very confused when I got here. After many years of an abstinence-based model, I came to EDA, which I found through God, I guess, and I've been very confused since February. And you know, I'm an intelligent woman. It's not like I can't figure things out, but I just have had a lot of difficulty making the switch. And it's finally happening for me. And, you know, through going to the meetings and doing the work, just continue. And one thing that was invaluable for me was the website, which led me to the book, which has been invaluable, which everything that I've done little by little since February has gotten me to the point where now I'm having these aha moments, and it's like, oh, I get what they're saying. Oh, I understand this, you know? And basically, so I just want to say that for anybody who's struggling and is confused, you're right in the right place. You know, you're right where you're supposed to be, and just keep coming. I kept asking questions. I kept like talking to people and really feeling dumb, but eventually it clears up. The other two things I want to say is I love this workshop. Thank you so much. It's so helpful. And I love the love and the acceptance that I feel in EDA. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to Leanne in North Carolina.
Yep, my name's Leanne. I have an eating disorder. I'm in North Carolina. Wow, this part about step 3 really resonated me, where it said, we soon acknowledge that humble and anonymous work is exactly what we and the world most need. It's just so powerful to have these thoughts and then see them written down and know that that means a lot of other people had those thoughts too. Because when I started treatment and early in my recovery, I started to have this feeling like I have tried to make myself way too important because I want to feel like I matter. And I do need to feel like I matter, but I don't need to be important. I don't need other people to think I'm important to matter. And my ideas of service were very toxic, very codependent, very unhelpful to me and to other people. I'd always burn out. I'd always people please and say yes to too many things. And there was no joy in it whatsoever. And it's just been very different offering service at meetings and letting my brain sit with the fact that I matter, but it's not that important. It's not that big a deal. And that is really healing for me. And I don't know that people outside of this program would understand that, because I feel like when I say it's not that important, it sounds like I'm being down on myself. But to me, that is such a relief to say I matter and it's not that important. So thanks for letting me share.
Thank you. Carrie.
Hi. So it was interesting. I really liked reading through step 2 today, or through step 3 today, because it was really interesting to me, because I felt like, I'm so new to this program that I'm even struggling to even call what I have an eating disorder. But then it's really interesting, because I'm like, I can't define it. Like, I can't say, oh, I'm a binger, or oh, I'm a restrictor, or oh, I'm this, or I'm that. And it feels like it's important to name it, because if you can name it, then you can tackle it. But on the other hand, I think back and I think to the literature we read in the meetings, that it's a thinking problem, not a, not a food problem. And so I think that even I don't know, I feel like it maybe even refers to even giving it a name. I know I have problems. I know I had to throw away the scale. I know that because I can't have it in my house because I obsess over it. But it's kind of messed up how I obsess over it, because I watch it go up and I don't do anything about it. I just eat more because it's awesome. So I guess my questions are, is it important to name it? Does that come with time? Or do you just kind of walk through the process and eventually you'll figure it out?
Thank you. Did you read chapter 3 in our book, More on Eating Disorders?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't relate to any of that.
Well, I'm sure I did, but I probably need to go back to read it. Yes, so I can go back and read it.
If you've got a problem with food, eating, weight, body image, this mental obsession, it's all close enough. And I don't know if you have to name it, but if you feel you belong here and you feel you could benefit from steps, I would support you in going for it.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay, Ed, could you take us out, and then we'll have our after meeting. Then we'll turn off the recording and continue with our after meeting.
Thank you, Regina. Volunteers are selected prior to the start of each workshop. Next week, please consider joining us 10 to 15 minutes early to volunteer. Anonymity reminder: please do not share who you've seen here or what others have shared here. 7th tradition: we have no dues or fees, and this workshop is offered at no cost. However, EDA has expenses and donations are welcome. We hope you will consider a minimum donation of $14 for this 14-week workshop. To donate, go to the EDA website and select the support tab. If you wish to, please join me in saying the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. We hope you enjoyed today's workshop. More information about Eating Disorders Anonymous can be found at 4eda.org, the number 4eda.org. The handouts for this workshop can be found at edahopeforrecovery.com. We encourage you to check out one or more of the many EDA Zoom or in-person meetings. Many of us have found recovery from our eating disorders in these meetings and hope that you will too. Until next time.